The Duke glanced at them, his gaze roaming over Helen dismissively, and then settling more firmly on Aurora, though not in a manner of appreciation. He rather looked at her as if he found her distasteful.
"I am pleased to make your acquaintance."
The words sounded foreign to him, as if such niceties were unfamiliar. Aurora dipped her head in greeting, uncertain of how the next few moments would go. Still, she would make a go of being civil, for she couldn't imagine why he held her in such dislike. "Likewise, Your Grace. How are you finding our fair city of London?"
"Dark, dirty, and inhospitable,"
he replied sharply. Then, almost in challenge, he added,
"And you, madam, how are you finding London these days?"
He really was a most unpleasant gentleman, Aurora thought. What a pity. "At the moment," Aurora said, her tone icy and her brows arched imperiously, "much the same." The Duke's stare was just as glacial.
"Well, then perhaps we should both seek more comfortable climates, Lady Sheffield. Good evening to you."
And with that, he walked away.
Gavin strode from the ballroom and through the entryway of the Trumbull's lavish home. He didn't stop or slow his steps until he was outside in the cool, if not entirely fresh, night air. Once there, away from the crowd and away from the curious stares, he felt he could breathe again. And that was when he saw her, Lady Sheffield. She was waiting for her carriage on the steps outside. "I was an arse," he said simply as he walked up behind her. "I hate these blasted things." She turned then, her surprise quite clear.
"Is that an apology?"
"It probably should be, but no." Gavin sighed. "I made an assumption about you the moment I laid eyes on you, that you would be vain and full of conceit, only concerned with power and position and wealth. I can't apologize for that, as I do not yet know whether or not it was accurate. That being said, I should not have behaved as if it were a fact." She frowned at him, her perfectly arched brows drawing together in an expression of disbelief so exaggerated it might have been comical. It would have been comical if she was still not so ridiculously beautiful.
"So, your adherence to the standards of what is and is not acceptable behavior when meeting a stranger is dependent upon whether or not you deem the stranger worthy of being polite to them. If that is so, Your Grace, then you have entirely missed the point of etiquette. Etiquette is not in place so that you may be gracious to those you like. Etiquette exists so that you may be gracious to those you do not know and even those whom you do not wish to know. It is what allows society to function rather than to have people running about like wild animals, planting faces and starting duels."
"I'm not much for society," he replied. "Just ask St. James. He despairs of me ever grasping the intricacies of it. I believe that had been his intent when introducing us, that you might, for whatever reason, take on the task of teaching me to function better within it." She laughed then, the sound light and musical, despite the fact that it also sounded a bit mean.
"I shall not,"
she finally managed.
"There is no power on earth that would convince me to spend more time in your company, Your Grace. The fact of the matter is I find your manners deplorable. More than your manners, I find your close-minded dismissal of myself and others as unworthy of your time, attention, or even civility to be insufferable. So, I bid you good night, and wish you all the best in your endeavours."
How wishing him the best and wishing him to be the very devil could sound so much alike, he had no idea. But it did. She might well have told him to go straight to hell. Puzzling over that, and perhaps even a bit amused by it, Gavin watched as she stepped toward an approaching carriage, was assisted into it by a waiting footman, and then disappeared into the night.